Hi friends, thanks for joining me today. In this video, I'll share how I've been able to land my dream jobs in Silicon Valley over the last 5 years and give you some tips on how you can also position yourself to get your own dream jobs. I'm Melissa, and this is my series about what it's like to work in Silicon Valley, specifically the tech industry. So I have been a founder, I've started 3 companies, I've been an angel investor, and I'm currently a marketer at a fintech startup. So I think that I have gotten the full Silicon Valley experience, and I want to share with you how I've been able to land my dream jobs, build opportunities for myself, and then lastly, what are hiring managers looking for at these fancy tech companies where it's super competitive? I'll share with you my personal experience. Of course, everybody has different experiences, but these are the things that have worked for me. Let's dive right in. It was March of 2020 when a global pandemic was announced. I'm sure you can all remember this. It felt like yesterday. But during that time, the stock market crashed. There were layoffs happening one at a time, and I was building a venture fund with my co-founders. But because of what was happening everywhere, and we were forced into lockdown with our families, we had to pause and wind down our business. Over the few months that succeeded, I had to pursue a full-time role. And I say that it's the time I had to get a real job after 10 years. And over those next 5 years, I've been able to acquire some skills, and I've identified some traits that have helped me get my dream jobs. There were 3 traits that really helped me. 1 was having passion for the mission of the company. 2 is gaining relevant skills and expertise. And then 3rd is really knowing and understanding my superpowers so that I can show up in these interviews and having conversations with these companies very confidently. So let's talk about the first one, passion for the mission. I will not name names of these companies, but you can always look at my LinkedIn profile to see where I had worked. But there were 2 companies that I had applied for and had gotten jobs at over the last 5 years. And the first one is a startup in the venture ecosystem with a mission to support underrepresented founders. This was, at the time, I felt like my mission in life. And I believed in this mission so strongly that, to be honest, I would have done the work for free. So I had interviewed for this, and I think what really set me apart was sharing my story about why this was important to me and how passionate I was about their mission to support underrepresented founders and women in VC. And because of that, I was able to get a job offer. Now, I will share, full disclosure, this is back in September of 2020. I did end up taking a pay cut in order to get this job. And I didn't get a title as fancy as I would have liked. But over 6 months after, I was able to position myself for another internal role that then got me to the income, to the salary that I wanted, and also I got a better, fancier title. I really think that if I didn't feel so passionately about the mission and feel like this was going to be my life's work, I would not have gotten that job. Now, the second company that I worked at a year later after, I started at a very successful tech startup in Silicon Valley, and it was a super competitive job. I actually interviewed for it quite a few months. And again, I felt so strongly about their mission in supporting entrepreneurs and founders and increasing the GDP of the internet that I believe that's what really set me apart. And so of course you have to have the basic qualification and skills to do the job, but when you feel such a strong connection to the mission and are super passionate about the work that this company is doing, I believe that passion is what's going to set you apart from everybody else who is applying for the same role. Now, the second thing that I learned was having relevant skills and expertise. Of course, table stakes, you must be qualified to do the job that you're applying for. But what I've learned as a hiring manager, as well as talking to a lot of recruiters, that recruiting and hiring is really just pattern matching, right? So there is a JD, a job description, where there are skills and gaps and requirements that are needed for a project or for the team. And so when they look at a candidate's resume and they review it, they are like just looking at what they need versus what the candidate's qualifications are. So as you are creating your resume for that company, you need to go bullet by bullet show how you've been able to do all the things that were listed in the JD. And again, this may sound basic and you may already know this, but ultimately we are just looking at where are the gaps that we need, or what is the problem that we're trying to solve, and then does this person have those skills, and are they going to be the solution to that problem? And so once I understood that it was all pattern matching and really matchmaking between a job description and a resume, then I stopped taking rejection so personally and just really realize that it's not about me, but it's what the business needs. And then, who is that person that can help solve the problem for the business? And if you do not yet have those relevant skills or expertise that are listed in the job, but you're absolutely passionate about getting that job, then you should try to upskill. And so I have enrolled every year. I burn through a lot of money, thousands of dollars. I spent thousands of dollars upskilling myself. I've enrolled in Reforge, which is a growth marketing course. I have taken public speaking courses. There are free communities like Toastmasters where you can learn how to do public speaking and presentation better for free or a very nominal amount. And every year I just invest in myself. And it's really important to acquire new skills that can have you be competitive and to stand out from everybody else out there. So the last tip I have is really knowing your superpowers. And the reason why this is important is if you know your superpowers, you can then show up more confidently in the interview. A big part of how we hiring managers or a recruiter will assess whether or not to move forward with a candidate is how well do they show up. And that just means being a good communicator, having passion and having belief in yourself, and being able to tell your story. So if you know what your superpowers are, it is much easier to show up confidently because you know what you are worth and you know that you deserve to be there having that interview with that person. And that has helped me a lot show up confidently and interview really well. Additionally, you should also have self-awareness on areas where you need to develop. And if you are self-aware about the areas where you need to develop, you should be working on that. And that goes back to having the relevant skills and expertise I mentioned earlier, where you should be working on those things so that the gaps are not so big. And so really, once you know your superpowers and you deeply embody it, you should bring that to the interview because that will make such a huge difference in whether or not the hiring manager or the recruiter believes in you and your abilities to do the job well. So just to recap what this all means for you, there are 3 things to position yourself for success and help you land your dream jobs. The first is choose a company whose mission you deeply believe in. Your passion for the mission will set you apart from everybody else. And especially if you've been able to share some stories, how you've been able to solve the problems in the past, that will really get you further and set you apart from everybody else. And then second, gain the relevant expertise and skills needed that is listed in the job description. Upskill out of your own pocket, pay the course, and see it as an investment in yourself so that you have all the qualifications that the company is looking for in the ideal candidate. And then finally, highlight your superpowers. Spend some time really understanding what are you good at. When you ask friends, family, coworkers, you could ask them hey, what are 2 or 3 things that I do really well? Learn what your superpowers and skills are, and then embody that when you show up in the interview. Once you can show up confidently and be authentic, you will then be able to persuade the recruiters and the hiring managers to believe in you as well. A wise friend once told me that rejections are not failure. Rejections are simply redirections. And so as you're thinking about your next job and the path that you want to pursue, if you've done all the things that I mentioned and you still don't get it, believe that something else is coming your way. Thank you for your time today. I hope this was helpful. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.